Well, it falls to me to present and to discuss Emily Cock's book, which I have here, Rhinoplasty and the Nose in Early Modern British Medicine and Culture, which in an example of ever-decreasing circles belongs to a series that is edited by Keir Waddington. So the overlaps are many. And Emily Cock is coming to the end, or has come to the end, of a Leverhulme Career Fellowship in the department, which, as Keir said at the start, has turned into a permanent lectureship here. And it really was a pleasure to read and present a book about such a conspicuous topic, about which I have personally and professionally thought so little. And as Emily says in opening the book, the nose is the most prominent part of the most prominent part of the body. And on one basic level, Emily's is a compelling and accessible introduction to the social history of medicine for those of us who don't work within the subdiscipline. Focusing on a particular theme, her work panoramically surveys the place of the nose in British culture, stretching from the impact of the Renaissance into the dawn of the 19th century. Emily unearths the extensive concern of British surgeons across the early modern period about violated or deformed noses and its impact on the life of the individual. She follows the afterlives of the practice and writings of the Bolognese surgeon Gaspare Tagliacozzi, the father of plastic surgery, whose rhinoplasty procedure involved using a flap of skin from the patient's upper arm to reconstruct the nose. Tagliacozzi's paradoxical fate would be that his posthumous reputation turned on a medical misunderstanding. In British culture, in discourse like poetic satires, the claim abounded that the skin of reconstructed noses had been taken or bought from social inferiors and that they would eventually fall off. Whereas historians of medicine have supposed that Tagliacozzi's method had disappeared from the medical firmament after his death in 1599, only to be rediscovered during the 19th century, Emily shows that it throve in early modern British medical debate. Emily tracks down owners and readers of Tagliacozzi's work and its 1687 English adaptation by Alexander Reed, showing its reach among non-medical authors and within widespread tropes related to the pox or syphilis. In so doing, she sheds a colossal amount of light on the nature and circulation of medical knowledge in early modern Britain, as well as their intersections with social, gender, cultural, and political discourse. Standing at the intersection between the history of medicine and the history of masculinity, Emily's book reaches deep into cultural and intellectual history, especially of the body and, of course, the face. Hers is a work that is deeply schooled in the history of the buck, historical sociology, and historical anthropology. She draws especially on the methods of Marcel Mauss and Pierre Bourdieu on the theme of bodywork, or how discourse defined the cultural acceptability of what people could do to their bodies and others do to theirs. Emily's finding shows especially that women were almost uniformly excluded from the culture of nose reconstruction, which was closely related to ideas of male health and ideals of virility. Ideals which, of course, had an obverse in shaming and social discipline. And Emily excavates the cultural associations of nose reconstruction, including a loss of virility, drunkenness, weakness of character, and the pox, the latter being a concern that grew noticeably during the 17th and 18th centuries. Transcending the history of medicine, then, Emily's book is an essential item of reading for the history of the body, literary history, as well as popular culture, queer theory, and the history of sexuality. Emily begins by systematizing and analyzing discourses on the nose in early modern British culture. She turns then to medical knowledge involved in Tagliacozzi's procedure in his book and among British readers, showing that non-surgeon readers played an essential role in the circulation of medical knowledge about rhinoplasty. In the final two chapters of the book, Emily's focus shifts to popular understanding of Tagliacozzi's procedure, including stories of the allograft in alchemy, quackery, and in important literary sources like Samuel Butler's satirical poem Hudibras. She examines the cultural and economic anxieties that emerged from the commodification of the body, including the only case in which a 17th century woman, Lady Hesty Poulter, prognosticated about donating her nose for grafting. For someone like me, firmly entrenched in the long 18th century, the conclusion is perhaps the most exciting. Using literary sources like Henry Fielding's Amelia and Lawrence Sterne's Tristram Shandy, Emily shows that by the second half of the 18th century, popular satire and stigmatizing discourse was giving way to medically informed accounts of Tagliacozzi and his procedure, a trend that directly informed the 19th century revival of plastic surgery. Overall, and most significantly, Emily's book is salutary in treating the surface of the body as a text upon which meanings could be written, inscribed, interpreted, adjusted, altered, reinterpreted. Hers is a remarkable case study in answering the question of how societies and individuals negotiate between the scientifically possible and the socially permissible. And I think it's at that point that I can hopefully invite Emily to reflect on the work, and particularly to talk about the directions that she might take further research in. Which of the body parts should we be interested in?
Thank you, Ashley. I suppose in terms of which other body parts, I somehow ended up doing an awful lot about ears now. But it's sort of continuing on the surgeries, the fascination with surgeries that didn't happen but for different reasons. So through patient resistance or resistance through from other medical professionals or wider culture that then works out, oh, this is a problematic thing to be dealing with, particularly once you get to the punishment, all the different legal punishments that use the ears. So what does that happen for the people who've lost their ears through sort of innocent means? So I guess that's the new direction.
Good. So the ego is prominent.
Ebook. Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you.